Welcome to the Mighty Brain and our video, The Whispers of Giants. I'm Anthony, and from now on, I'll be accompanying you in our videos, taking you into the hidden world of myths and legends. Have you ever stood before a colossal ancient monument like the pyramids of Giza or the stone circles of Stonehenge and wondered, how did they do that? How could ancient peoples move and shape stones weighing hundreds of tons with seemingly primitive tools? This question has fascinated historians and archaeologists for centuries. But what if there's an answer so simple, yet so profound, that we hesitate to even consider it? What if the builders weren't like us? What if they were taller, stronger, and possessed knowledge we've long forgotten? This isn't just a modern fantasy, it's a story whispered in the oldest texts and traditions of almost every culture on Earth. The story of the giants. These stories are not limited to a single region or religion. They are a global phenomenon, a shared memory stretching from the sacred scriptures of the Middle East to the icy sagas of the North, from the sun-drenched myths of Greece to the deep jungles of the Americas. They speak of a bygone era, a primordial age when colossal beings inhabited the earth. Beings known by many names, the Nephilim, the Titans, the Jotun, the Quinametsin. Were these just fantastic stories our ancestors invented to explain natural phenomena like earthquakes and mountains? Or could they be a fragmented record of a real, forgotten chapter in our planet's history? A story deliberately obscured or simply lost in the sands of time. In our modern scientific world, we are quick to dismiss such accounts as mere mythology. We have diagrams, data, and established theories that explain the origin of our world and the development of humanity. Yet the legends persist. They speak of giants not just as lumbering behemoths, but as powerful figures, sometimes divine, sometimes monstrous, but always significant. They are often described as descendants of gods and mortals, a bridge between the celestial and the earthly. They are credited with building civilizations and, in many cases, their destruction. The sheer consistency of these stories across separated cultures is at least a fascinating mystery that demands our attention. So let's embark on an expedition into this hidden world. Let's temporarily set aside our modern skepticism and listen to what our ancestors tried to tell us. We will explore the origins, characteristics, and ultimate fate of these legendary giants. We will examine the sacred texts, the epic myths, and the tantalizing, though controversial, archaeological claims that suggest their existence. Is it possible that we are not the first advanced civilization on this planet? Could there have been a world before our own, a world ruled by giants? Join me as we delve into the shadows of history to uncover the secrets of the Nephilim, the fallen angels, and the lost world of the giants. Our journey begins with one of the most enigmatic and influential accounts of giants found in the Hebrew Bible. In the book of Genesis, chapter 6, just before the story of Noah and the flood, we find a few short but powerful verses. They describe a strange and unsettling event. As people began to multiply on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful. And they took as their wives whomever they chose. This union between the heavenly sons of God and mortal women produced unique and terrifying offspring. The text calls them the Nephilim, who were the mighty men of old, the men of renown. Who were these sons of God? This question has been debated for millennia. Many ancient and modern interpretations suggest they were divine beings, specifically angels who descended from heaven. Disregarding their divine duties, they were drawn to the beauty of human women, leading to an unauthorized mingling of celestial and earthly bloodlines. The term Nephilim itself is shrouded in mystery, often translated from the Hebrew as the fallen ones or even the topplers, hinting at their rebellious nature and their role in disrupting the created order. They were not just old people. They were a hybrid race, possessing the power of their angelic fathers and the physical form of their human mothers, resulting in beings of immense size and strength. The biblical narrative directly links the presence of these Nephilim to the increasing wickedness and corruption that consumed the world. Their existence seems to represent a fundamental violation of divine order, a blurring of the sacred boundaries between heaven and earth. This transgression is presented as a primary reason for God's decision to cleanse the planet with a catastrophic flood. The Nephilim and the chaos they embodied were so profound that only a complete fresh start, a washing away of this corrupted generation, would suffice. In this context, the flood becomes not merely a punishment for human sin, but a divine intervention to eradicate a monstrous hybrid race that threatened the fabric of creation. Interestingly, the story of the Nephilim doesn't seem to end with the flood. Later in the Bible, in the book of Numbers, when the Israelite spies explore the land of Canaan, they return with a terrifying report. They claim to have seen the descendants of the Nephilim there. They say to Moses, "And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we seem to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seem to them." This suggests that the giant bloodline somehow survived the flood and continued to exist as a source of fear and conflict for humanity. It solidifies their image as powerful adversaries, remnants of a chaotic past that refuse to stay buried. While the book of Genesis offers a brief, tantalizing glimpse into the Nephilim, other ancient texts provide a far more detailed and unsettling account. The most prominent among these is the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal work highly revered by early Jews and Christians, but ultimately excluded from most official biblical canons. This text dramatically expands on the Genesis narrative, giving names and specific roles to the fallen angels. It names them the Watchers, a group of 200 angels led by a figure named Semyaza, who were tasked with overseeing humanity from a sacred mountain. Instead of guarding humanity, they became its corruptors. The Book of Enoch describes a pact these Watchers made. They swore an oath to descend together to earth, take human wives, and father children with them. The text describes the consequences with terrifying clarity. Their offspring were giants, said to be thousands of meters tall, consuming all the food produced by humanity. As food ran out, these ravenous giants turned on humans themselves, devouring their flesh and drinking their blood. The world plunged into an abyss of violence and horror, a direct result of this forbidden angelic intervention. The giants filled the earth with bloodshed and chaos, completely perverting the intended course of human development. But the sin of the Watchers went beyond mere lust and the begetting of monstrous offspring. According to the Book of Enoch, they also taught humanity forbidden knowledge, secrets from heaven that should not have been revealed to mortals. The angel Azazel, for example, taught men to forge weapons of war, swords, knives, and shields, fueling conflict and violence. He also revealed to women the secrets of cosmetics and jewelry, which was seen as seduction and vanity. Other Watchers taught sorcery, astrology, the interpretation of signs, and other forms of occult knowledge. This transmission of forbidden information is depicted as a primary cause of humanity's corruption, a technological and spiritual leap for which humanity was not ready. This detailed narrative from the Book of Enoch sheds new light on the story of the Nephilim. They are not just a footnote in history, but the focal point of a grand cosmic rebellion. The fall of humanity is directly linked to this forbidden transfer of knowledge and the subsequent terror unleashed by their giant offspring. This story provides a powerful mythological explanation for the origin of evil, war, and sin. It suggests that these things are not inherent in the human condition, but were introduced by rebellious divine beings. The story of the Watchers and their giant offspring is a cautionary tale about the dangers of forbidden knowledge and the catastrophic consequences of disregarding divine order. Since the Church, as well as many other religions, deliberately banned the Holy Book of Enoch from their biblical canon, it can be concluded that these religions deliberately incorporated the forbidden teachings of these fallen beings into their rituals and traditions. Moreover, it seems that these religious institutions continue to deliberately pass on this forbidden knowledge to the people who follow them, and even encourage them to follow these false rituals and rites, and even spread them to others. Makeup and jewelry are intended to distract from true human divinity. Gold determines a person's worth. Makeup creates false beauty ideals. Adam and Eve were naked in their perfection. They needed neither makeup nor gold to present their true beauty before God. Six fingers and toes, an ancient sign considered in many cultures as a symbol of the extraordinary or even the supernatural. In the Bible, we find a particularly fascinating mention: a man born with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. In 2 Samuel chapter 21 verse 20, it says, "And there was again war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number, and he also was descended from the Rapha." This description is not just a curiosity, but a hint at a lineage of people who stand out from the norm, descendants of the Rapha, a legendary race of giants. Gath, the city from which this man came, is also known as the home of the famous Goliath, another giant who plays a central role in biblical tradition. The Rapha, sometimes referred to as Rephaim, are mentioned several times in the Bible. They are considered remnants of an ancient race of giants who inhabited the land of Canaan before the arrival of the Israelites. The fact that this man had 6 fingers and 6 toes was interpreted in many ancient cultures as a sign of divine or demonic descent. In mythology and legends, such physical characteristics are often associated with supernatural powers or a special destiny. Even if the Bible does not explicitly link this man with the Nephilim or the fallen angels, there are numerous traditions and theories that establish a connection between the giants, the Nephilim, and the so-called fallen angels. Many researchers and authors suspect that the descendants of the Rapha, like this man from Gath, are part of a larger story, a story of ancient beings whose traces run through the myths and legends of many peoples. Thus, the mention of the 6 fingers and toes remains not just a biblical side note, but a fascinating puzzle piece in the great mystery surrounding the giants, the Nephilim, and the fallen angels. In the shadowy mountain regions of Kandahar, Afghanistan, a legend was born in 2002 that would capture imaginations worldwide. According to reports from US soldiers stationed there, a routine patrol took a dramatic and terrifying turn. Deep in a remote cave, the team reportedly encountered a gigantic, human-like creature, over 330 meters tall, with fiery red hair, double rows of teeth, and 6 fingers on each hand. The soldiers described a harrowing fight. The giant, armed with a crude but deadly spear, displayed superhuman strength. It was only after a fierce firefight that the team managed to overpower the creature. The story goes that the body was quickly airlifted away by military helicopters. And then it vanished. No official records, no public confirmation, just the whispers of those who were there, and the stories that spread in military circles and online forums. To this day, the legend of the Kandahar giant persists, fueling both skepticism and belief. Was it an encounter with the last remnant of an ancient race, a case of mistaken identity, or even a psychological illusion under the stress of war? Some suspect genetic anomalies, while others point to secret military experiments or targeted disinformation. The story of the Kandahar giant is one of the most captivating and controversial modern mysteries. It blurs the line between myth and reality, challenging us to question what we accept as truth and what secrets might still be hidden in the forgotten places of the world. As long as the legend endures, it remains a haunting reminder. Sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't buried in ancient history, but lurk just beyond the boundaries of our current reality. The beings who shaped the first earth. In the beginning, long before the first humans saw the light of day, and before the earth took its present form, the primordial rulers of creation existed. These ancient beings, shrouded in legends and myths, are said to be the first to emerge from chaos, a force that was both creative and destructive, older than the gods themselves. They were not only witnesses to the universe's creation, but also its architects, laying the foundation of reality. In ancient cultures, these primordial rulers took many forms. The Greeks told of the Titans, gigantic beings who ruled the world before the Olympian gods. In Sumerian mythology, the Anunnaki descended from the heavens and determined the fate of humanity. Norse sagas tell of Ymir, the first giant whose flesh, blood, and bones became the earth, sea, and sky. Yet these stories are but a small glimpse of a much larger, universal myth that runs through human history. These primordial beings were far more than just rulers. They embodied the raw, untamed forces of nature itself. Their attributes were as vast and unpredictable as the universe: immense strength, immortality, and a will that could shape mountains or unleash storms. Some were considered benevolent creators, others destructive forces that threatened balance. In many traditions, they were the first to tame chaos and bring order to the world. Their stories explain how the world came to be, why natural forces exist, and why humans always waver between awe and fear when contemplating the divine. The influence of these primordial rulers echoed through the millennia. Ancient peoples erected temples, monuments, and megaliths in their honor, hoping to gain their favor or protect themselves from their wrath. Shamans and priests sought to contact them to gain knowledge and power. Their stories were passed down from generation to generation, deeply interwoven with humanity's creation myths and heroic sagas. In many cultures, they were considered intermediaries between heaven and earth, guardians of ancient secrets and the origin of all magic. Legend has it that these beings shaped the world. They raised mountains, carved rivers into the earth, and breathed life into the first living creatures. Their traces can still be found today in the ruins they left behind, in the myths that continue to fascinate us, and in the eternal question: what if the primordial rulers of creation actually once walked the earth? To this day, their legacy inspires researchers, artists, and dreamers alike, and reminds us how small we are in the face of the unknown. But what catastrophic event could have ended the reign of the primordial rulers and set the stage for a new order? Ancient legends speak of a time when the sky itself trembled, a massive upheaval that shattered the balance of creation. In countless myths, this was an era marked by cosmic battles, betrayal, and unimaginable destruction. Imagine the sky darkening as the children of the primordial beings rebelled against their creators. The Titans in Greek myth, overthrown by their own offspring, the Olympian gods. In Mesopotamia, the younger gods waged war against the Anunnaki to claim dominion over the earth. Norse sagas tell of the first great war, when the gods clash with the giants and reshape the very fabric of reality. These stories, though separated by continents and centuries, share a common thread. The old world was torn asunder so that a new one could be born. Mountains crumbled, oceans boiled, and the sky itself was split. The primordial rulers, once invincible, were overthrown, imprisoned in shadow realms, banished to the edges of existence, or lost forever in time. In this melting pot of chaos, a new hierarchy emerged. The old powers faded, making way for new gods, new rules, and a new destiny for the world. Yet the echoes of this great upheaval still resonate, in the ruins of forgotten temples, in the whispered fears of ancient peoples, and in the haunting question: what price did we pay for the world we inherited? The war that forged a new world order didn't begin suddenly. Its causes lay deep in ancient tensions between the Nephilim, the fallen angels, and humanity. The Nephilim, descendants of fallen angels and human women, were powerful, proud, and often cruel. Their hunger for power and control brought them into direct conflict with humans who longed for freedom and security. The fallen angels, once guardians of humanity, had betrayed their heavenly origin and allied themselves with the Nephilim. But soon, power struggles also erupted among them. Some angels regretted their actions and tried to protect humans. Thus arose a complex web of alliances and betrayals that plunged the world into a maelstrom of violence and chaos. The course of the war was marked by monumental battles. The Nephilim used their superhuman strength to destroy cities and devastate entire regions. Humans, initially outmatched, however, learned to unite and develop new tactics. With the help of repentant angels, they managed to exploit the weaknesses of the Nephilim. A decisive turning point was the Battle of the Valley of Shadows. Here, humans and repentant angels united against the overwhelming Nephilim. With cunning, courage, and divine support, they managed to defeat the Nephilim and banish many fallen angels. The consequences of this war were profound. The Nephilim were almost completely wiped out, the fallen angels banished or destroyed. Humanity was scarred by loss and destruction, yet it regained its freedom. From the ruins emerged a new world order. Humans learned to organize themselves, create laws, and preserve their history. The memory of the war shaped generations and served as a warning never to underestimate the dark forces again. Now we journey north to the cold, rugged landscapes of Scandinavia, the home of Norse myths. Here we encounter another species of gigantic beings, the Jotun. Often simply translated as giants, this translation can be, well, a bit misleading. The Jotun are a far more complex and integral part of the Norse cosmos than their brutal reputation suggests. They are not a separate, defeated race like the Titans, but an omnipresent force that exists in a constant dynamic relationship with the Aesir, the main pantheon of gods, which includes Odin, Thor, and Frigg. They represent the wild, untamed forces of nature, the ice, the mountains, the destructive power of winter. The origins of the Jotun are tied to the creation of the Norse world. In the beginning, there was only a gaping chasm called Ginnungagap, flanked by the fiery realm of Muspelheim and the icy realm of Niflheim. Where fire and ice met, the primordial giant Ymir was born from the melting frost. Ymir was the ancestor of all Jotun. The first gods, Odin and his brothers, Vili and Ve, eventually slew Ymir. From his colossal corpse, they fashioned the world. His blood became the oceans, his flesh the earth, his bones the mountains, and his skull the sky. This makes the Jotun a fundamental element of the cosmos, not just external enemies. The world itself is built from the body of their ancestor. The relationship between the gods and the Jotun is therefore deeply ambivalent, a complex web of conflict, kinship, and cooperation. Thor is their most famous and relentless foe, constantly defending the realms of gods and men from their incursions. yet the gods are not entirely separate from them. The trickster god Loki, one of the most important figures in the Norse pantheon, is the son of a Jotun. Odin himself journeyed to Jotunheim, the realm of the giants, to seek wisdom from the wise giant Mimir, sacrificing his own eye to drink from the well of knowledge. Gods and giants marry, have affairs, and sometimes even form alliances, blurring the lines between friend and foe. Unlike the purely chaotic titans, the Jotun possess their own ancient wisdom, magic, and culture. They are not merely destructive forces. They are a necessary part of the cosmic balance. They represent the dangerous, chaotic wilderness that exists beyond the ordered walls of Asgard and Midgard. Their constant threat keeps the gods vigilant and strong. The Jotun are a reminder that the universe is not entirely tameable, that there are ancient powerful forces that exist beyond the control of even the gods. This complex portrayal makes them one of the most fascinating groups of giants in world mythology, embodying both the creative and destructive potential of nature. The Twilight of Gods and Giants. Since the dawn of time, legends have revolved around the end of the powerful beings who once ruled heaven and earth. In the midst of many cultures, the fall of gods and giants is a central motif, a symbol of change, chaos, and the renewal of the world. In Norse mythology, the fate of gods and giants culminates in Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Odin, Thor, Loki, and the giants face each other in an all-destroying battle. The world sinks into fire, the sun darkens, and even the mightiest gods fall. But from the ashes, a new world emerges, cleansed and ready for a new beginning. In Greek mythology too, we find the epic battle between the Olympian gods and the Titans, the Titanomachy. Zeus, armed with his lightning bolts, leads the Olympians against the ancient giants. After a fierce war, the Titans are defeated and banished to the gloomy Tartarus. The victory of the gods marks the beginning of a new order. The Bible also knows the downfall of giants. The Nephilim, descendants of fallen angels and humans, are wiped out by the Great Flood. The flood symbolizes divine justice and the cleansing of the world from arrogance and hubris. Similar motifs can be found in other cultures. In Indian mythology, gods and demons fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. The Maya tell of gods who perish in cosmic battles to make way for new ages. The Twilight of Gods and Giants is more than just a story of war and destruction. It represents the eternal cycle of end and new beginning, of order and chaos. The most important symbols, the world tree, fire, the flood, remind us that every destruction also holds the seed for new life. Thus, the Twilight of Gods and Giants remains an eternal echo in the midst of humanity, a reminder of transience, but also of the hope for renewal. The stories of giants are not limited to the mythologies of Europe and the Near East. They are a truly global phenomenon, with remarkably similar narratives found in the oral traditions of indigenous peoples around the world, cultures that had no contact with each other whatsoever. In North America, many Native American tribes have legends of giant races. The Algonquin peoples speak of the fearsome Wendigo, a giant cannibalistic spirit associated with winter, greed, and the dangers of the wilderness. The Iroquois and other tribes tell stories of the Atatsik, or stone giants, a powerful and destructive race eventually defeated by the forces of good. Further south, in Mesoamerica, we find that the belief in an earlier age of giants was central to the cosmology of great civilizations like the Aztecs and Maya. Aztec creation myths describe a cyclical universe where the world before our current era, the fifth sun, was created and destroyed 4 times. According to their legends, the first of these worlds, the first sun, was inhabited by a race of giants known as the Quinametzin. These giants are said to have built the massive ancient city of Teotihuacan with its colossal pyramids before they were eventually destroyed by jaguars, or, in some versions, by a great flood, echoing the biblical narrative. These stories were not just abstract myths, they were treated as historical records. The Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés and his chroniclers were told by their Aztec allies in Tlaxcala that the land was once inhabited by these immense and malevolent giants. As alleged proof, the Tlaxcalans showed the Spanish what they claimed was the thigh bone of a giant, described as being as large as a man of ordinary stature. While this was likely the fossilized bone of a mammoth or other prehistoric megafauna, it shows how deeply embedded the belief in a real historical race of giants was in their worldview. For them, the proof was right there in the earth. The persistence of these giant myths across continents raises fascinating questions. How did so many separate cultures develop such similar stories of a primordial race of giants, often associated with the construction of monumental structures and later wiped out by catastrophe? Some might argue it's a simple case of human imagination trying to explain large fossil bones or natural landforms. Yet others see a deeper connection, a collective memory of a real past. Whether myth or memory, these stories consistently portray giants as foundational figures. The aboriginal inhabitants, the first builders, and the ancient enemies whose defeat was necessary for the world of humans to begin. After our journey through ancient scriptures, epic myths, and global folklore, one profound question remains. Why do these stories of giants continue to fascinate us so much? In an age of science and reason, why are we still so captivated by the Nephilim, the Titans, and the Jotun? Part of the answer lies in their sheer size. Giants represent the ultimate other, beings so powerful and immense that they challenge our human-centered worldview. They force us to consider the possibility that we are not, and perhaps never were, the masters of this planet. This idea is both humbling and exciting. Furthermore, these legends tap into a deep-seated human desire for a grander, more significant past. The notion that our world was born from a titanic struggle between gods and giants, or that ancient secrets can be explained by a lost race of master builders, is far more romantic and exciting than the slow, methodical processes that geology and archaeology describe. Their stories convey a sense of enchantment and wonder, the belief that the world was once a more magical place, filled with beings of incredible power. They appeal to the part of us that wants to believe that secrets are hidden just beneath the surface of our everyday reality. One might say it's like the desire for the treasure in Silver Sea, only in the world of myths. The narrative of a widespread conspiracy to hide evidence of giants also fuels modern fascination. The theory that institutions like governments or established science deliberately suppress giant skeletons and artifacts taps into a widespread distrust of authority. It transforms the search for giants into a hunt for forbidden truth, a rebellion against an establishment that allegedly wants to control history. This narrative makes believers feel like courageous truth seekers, uncovering a secret history that has been hidden from the masses. It's a powerful and compelling concept that makes the legend seem urgent and relevant today, almost like a modern clash of cultures. Ultimately, whether you believe giants were real historical beings or powerful mythological symbols, their stories endure because they reflect fundamental truths about the human condition. They embody our greatest fears of chaos, tyranny, and an untamable nature. But they also embody our greatest aspirations, the struggle for order, the pursuit of knowledge, and the triumph of a new generation over the old. The giants are a mirror, reflecting our anxieties about our place in the cosmos and our endless curiosity about the forgotten chapters of our own past. And as long as we look up at the mountains and wonder, we will continue to tell stories about those who walked the earth before us.